rush in, and he steals the bird! How did that connect by Edgeway? Welcome back, one and all, to the Amazon EU Masters Summer 2021. We are into our playoffs. I'm Penguin. He is the illustrious Jamada, and we are going to be bringing you now into Champ Select 4 Game 2. A lot of things now up in the air, Jamada. The Kennen was a massive pick for Movistar Riders. This is now we're starting to see what I love to call the M&M, the mini meta, coming into this best of 5.
Yeah, no, absolutely agree. The Electric Rat's got to go, or it's got to be first picked, I think, on the blue side team at this point. That would be my best guess at the next potential pivot. I didn't actually catch word on what side these teams are on. I didn't actually hear whether we're going to see Fnatic Rising want to move over to the red side or stay on the blue. If they stay on the blue, I'm expecting Kennen to be banned. I'm not sure if they'll necessarily first pick it. That's the thing. I think over other champions, you know, like the AD junglers like Viego, or at least in which they removed away, or you know, maybe a support pick. I don't know if they would necessarily take Kennen over it. I think they had okay tools at dealing with the Kennen. They just didn't get to use them in time, and Marky always just broke apart and broke open these team fights. For Movistar, though, even regardless of what side they're on, I don't think much has to change for the draft. I think they can probably head at this relatively the same kind of angle, where, you know, you're looking at the Twisted Fate or the Rise. You can leave both of them open. I imagine XKenzuke very comfortable, like Trouble said on the analyst desk, 100% winning on the Twisted Fate, and also very, very much comfortable on the Rise, or even LeBlanc could come into the equation as well.
Yeah, honestly, I think don't fix what's not broken for Movistar Riders. You came in, you had a game plan, it worked. You can just rinse and repeat. Should Fnatic Rising give you back over that Electric Rack in the top lane, you just take it again. You first pricked it. You knew it was going in blind. You were very happy with it. And as well as that, you look at Maxlore, who was able to bring out only his 3rd ever champion in this tournament, and it looks fantastic. I think now the very much the ball is in the court of Fnatic Rising. You need to throw a spanner into works. You need to be the ones to find a solution to what's being thrown at you.
Yeah, exactly. And Sin's out just off the bat, just going to be removed away from Maxlore. That's a lot of respect being paid to the champion pool. So let's see how the bans are going to evolve, because last time, like Rising, of course, we're happy to ban away the Lee Sin on the 3rd ban. Movistar going to keep that opening of Felios ban. And we'll see whether the focus is going to move more over to the junglers. They're going to remove away the Rise themselves this time. So this says to me maybe Fnatic Rising eyeing up themselves the Twisted Fate as the opening pick, as opposed to, of course, well, the Rise, which they've now removed away, or maybe a jungler, and they'll look to go at it. Movistar, however, like we said, if it's not broken, don't fix it. They don't seem too fussed by what Fnatic are doing in terms of adaptation in these bans. And finally,
there it is. There it is. Kennen taken off the board now, so we will see Marky on something different. Can he have the same level of impact on something new? We'll have to wait and see. But Fnatic Rising will be the ones with first pick, and now with all these different changes coming into the draft, I'm curious to see what is basically slipped through. The Lee Sin, the Viego, the Xin Zhao. You've got yourself the Thresh as well, should you want to go that way. They are going to ban away the Jace. So again, same bans from Movistar Riders, but now Fnatic Rising, they have to change up their first pick.
Yeah, exactly. So eyeing up, well, beat me to any point I could have made. They're going to look for the Lee Sin instead. I was going to say, you're looking at, obviously, Viego, Lee Sin, Twisted Fate, probably the options here. And if Movistar want to, they can snap up the other side of those 3 champions. The Viego and the Twisted Fate could come in here for XKenzuke if they want to go for it. No real harm in doing it. We know Maxlore is very comfortable on the Viego, most played champion so far at the Amazon EU Masters, and there you go, LeBlanc instead. Don't want to actually pick on the Twisted Fate, because now they know if Dajor wants to lean on the Twisted Fate, they're gonna have a comfortable kill lane in the mid 2v2.
Yeah, honestly, LeBlanc was banned in game 1, now gets itself out of ban prison. The Twisted Fate, like you mentioned, is going to be picked up now for Dajor. And now we got to see what the side of Fnatic Rising want to pick into it. Do they look for their top laner, AD carry? I like this. Get Bean onto something that can control the wave, get you to objectives first.
Yeah, I definitely like that as well. I think they're going to be able to probably play range now. They've got disengage. Once Dajor also gets that rapid fire cannon, you're going to be able to dish out those gold cards from longer range. And Movistar could potentially struggle with some of those kind of snap CC tools. I would like to see them maybe lock in I was going to say an engage tool now, but instead they're going to actually lock in the Kalista to match the lane prowess. And I mean, to be fair, Kalista Orma, bit of an engage tool in itself, so kind of doubles over as both. And now Movistar, options towards either the top side or support bands. I think if you're just going to look for, you know, an aggressive support, Braum will be the band to remove away, and then maybe something else, maybe the Thresh, I think, to sort of deny the safety net that these sort of poke-ish type champions like Twist Fate with the Rapid Fire Cannon and the Varus want to have.
Yeah. Honestly, I think that would be a very smart ban if they do decide to go for it. The Leona banned away, so not going to see duel on that champion, but we'll see where they want to try and take this. Of course, they have got themselves first pick coming out of the second phase of bans, so they'll be able to pick up their support first. Exactly as you said, Mr. Prophet Jamada, they have gotten themselves a Thresh and the Braum taken off the board. And now for Fnatic Rising, I honestly wouldn't mind seeing maybe even a Rakan or a Nautilus ban here, just to stop that very aggressive 2v2.
Yeah, I think, you know, you're looking at, obviously,
the Rel, I completely forgot. Completely forgot about her.
But now I think this does just move Movistar over to the Alistar, if I had to take a guess. Though Nautilus would be pretty good for just being able to get fights started at the button press. And I think that's probably what Movistar need a little bit more. I think if the Nautilus comes in, Fnatic Rising would be a little more inclined to maybe lock in that Rakan. We'll have to see what the option could be, because Movistar might actually do it themselves. Instead, it's going to be a pivot to the Sett. So now we're looking at a flex option, really. If Marky has a good enough matchup on the top side, Marky could lock in the Sett, and that can weak side just fine.
Yeah,
most top sides, and depending on what Rhuckz decides to lock in here, if they feel like Dajor could just pilot the Sett with the Kalista, they'll certainly do that. So I love that adaptation from Movistar, just pivot off of all of those supports. And Rel actually technically accounts that, so I think maybe a change in that sense. And with the Sett, maybe thinking about locking in the Rakan. We'll have to see exactly how Rhuckz feels about it. And the GP locked in again. I'm not sure how Orcs will feel about it, of course. Maybe wanted a little more agency out of the top side, something to play towards. Gangplank can be played towards, but it's just very matchup dependent.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the big thing, though, when you look at the agency they were looking at, they didn't mention the Aurelia, is that you can just flex that Sett up to Marky up in the top side. The Sett into the Aurelia is so good, so they felt like they maybe had to go with this, force that Sett down into the bot side. The Rakan locked and loaded now for Fnatic Rising. They've got a lot of pick potential, but I feel like you get on top of these guys, you get in their faces, they're just going to blow up.
Yeah, and I mean, I think Movistar now looking for another engage tool out of the top side. I would love to see one, in my opinion. I think he would do absolutely fine into the Gangplank. Is not really something that without a lot of focus, a Gangplank can just outright win that lane in many cases. And often in pro play, you'll just outright see an Ornn winning out, but it's a last second swap over to the Cho'Gath, which effectively kind of does the same thing, right? A little more counter engage. So that means if Rhuckz tries to slip in, if he gets silenced all of a sudden, he can't dash back and he just gets locked up and dies. I love that from Movistar. Honestly, a lot of counter engage here on their side. They recognize, okay, Fnatic Rising with that first 3, they're gonna have to lock in some kind of engage eventually, and it's gonna be very limited because they go for the Gangplank and it's only really the Rakan to get things going. They're gonna work off effectively just poke and then look for Rhuckz, try and find those angles in. But if he's constantly getting settled back out, if it's always on top of Cho'Gath who can just immediately stop him from being able to use the mobility to get back, things will get tricky. And talking about the early game, we've got a Kalista Sett in the bottom side who should be able to take over lane with Rakan, and then LeBlanc with Viego, Twisted Fate, Lee Sin might be able to stand up to if they can find the CC and damage, but if they can't, I expect that Viego and LeBlanc to pretty much win out in 2v2 almost every single time.
Yeah, and just looking at the compositions coming out is that if you don't get ahead as this Fnatic Rising composition, if you're not able to keep the side of Movistar Riders in their lane, in their back into their base, behind their turrets, they're just going to run over you. I feel like if Movistar Riders gets even an inch ahead, this game is going to be over so fast because you just can't stop them.
Yeah, exactly. I think Fnatic Rising, if I will say there is a bit of a caveat, Movistar Riders don't necessarily have a whole bunch of proactive engage. So being on this Varus pick could actually have a lot of potency if they can keep him safe and, away from XKenzuke. And of course, maybe even get Bean rolling, but I think that's going to be difficult. Playing into Kalista lanes and Sett, in particular, just being able to return so much damage in those early levels, it's tricky. So I think that's about all Fnatic are really working with, trying to find those great engages out of Rhuckz in that sort of mid-game phase, and hoping he doesn't get blown up or finds enough self. You look for the poke, then look for that engage from Rhuckz, and hope you catch Movistar kind of sleeping.
Well, we'll have to wait and see. Fnatic Rising now onto the Rift with Movistar Riders. The last NLC representative here, already down in this series, 0-1. We will see now if Movistar Riders can put themselves one step away from a spot in the Amazon EU Masters semifinals, or if Fnatic Rising are going to make a series out of this. It's all about how this laning phase goes, how these two mid laners can affect the map. Of course, we know that the Twisted Fate can get around with that ultimate, with the teleport, but it's going to be as well as a XKenzuke looking to try and just roam around after getting the push.
Yeah, exactly. Definitely looking to XKenzuke to try and shut down Dajor on the Twisted Fate in the early stages. Maybe even Maxlore pays an early visit to the mid lane. I think when you've got a LeBlanc, it's always very nice to blow the enemy mid laner's flash. It just puts so much extra pressure on that laner, especially when it's something immobile like Twisted Fate. It then immediately draws a lot more attention from Fnatic as well. They would have to look towards making sure that Dajor is safe and able to actually farm up and get to 6, and then eventually affect those side lanes.
Well, we do see both mid laners taking up the Corrupting Potion. Pretty standard affair nowadays. You pick it up, you push in, you just basically try and make it a health war at that point, and you just look to try and get a cheeky recall off if you can. So we should see some aggressive trading, but unless there's a really big mistake, neither really in danger of being taken down. As I say, that top side, level 2 gets hit first by Pride, who has got some barrels going, will not land them, and will just be able to get themselves a little bit more harassed. So good kiting out by Marky, but Pride will have the advantage on this Gangplank in the early stages.
Yeah, Pride on that Gangplank, like you say, early stage. Oh, flash forward from Jewel.
What? Trying to go in, trying to get on top of it, not able to land the CC, and just takes a really unfortunate trade back. So Jewel, I like the proactiveness, just missing on the execution.
Yeah, I mean, he does get Bean's heal, so I guess there is that to it. And Sett, of course, very dependent on the Hex flash for a lot of engages. So he's not really losing too much in that sense. Of course, just means he can't flash immediately in their face. Obviously has to get that charge up, but see if anything comes from that, from the Fnatic Rising side, if they're able to maybe punish the flashless Sett down there. But Pride, a lot of proactivity, or rather priority, rather, as here we go, Hex Flash.
Yeah, gonna walk forward.
I think.
Yeah, not gonna really be able to get anything from that. Of course, the Rakan's still very safe. Duel, I like that though. You're pushing up. You know that you can maybe look for something again. You're not gonna lose or gain anything out of anything else, but that's all been happening. We do have MAXI towards this top side and Maxlore towards the bottom end. So Maxlore snuck himself out, but this wave hasn't just crashed at the moment. So he's only on that Krug camp just now, and this is where it gets a little bit too long for Movistar Riders.
XKenzuke as well. He's got first move.
He does have first move.
In the extended.
He's going to be able to move himself down. It's going to be 4 members of Movistar Riders jumping onto the duo of Bean and Rhuckz. There is 2 TPs available. There's one. There's the heal coming down. We're going to see the face breaker flash away. Bean trying to keep himself alive. They are going to get the Ren down, but it's a trade of supports. 1 for 1, and a flash away from Venzer means he now has not got his summoners. It's a 1 for 1. I feel like Movistar Riders will still be okay with it, considering they got the TP.
Yeah, I feel like they should be okay. XKenzuke obviously roamed down, walked down instead. But I think when you commit that many members, you maybe expect a little bit more out of that in terms of the kill yield. Decent response from Fnatic to not lose more members, I suppose. As Jewel actually opens up on the top side. We'll see if he wants to maybe try and make an immediate play onto the mid lane or maybe the top side. See what's going on there, but yeah, Movistar using the early I'm getting my words mixed up. The early priority down here to move XKenzuke in, and they just don't have enough damage to immediately blow someone up. Beam flashes away from the Spectral more, and I think that's the crucial thing, which allows for him to live, and the focus turns onto Rhuckz. Venzer flashes, I think, just from the gold card, worrying about that.
No minions, gold card comes down, he's dead.
Yeah, but I will say, this does have potential roll-on effect in the next couple of minutes, because now Venzer, also, I mean, he brought heal, didn't bring cleanse for 1, but no flash now. Yes, XKenzuke, oh no, XKenzuke actually used teleport now to get back to lane, so Dajor should just have, outright, the ability to move down to the bottom side now with Destiny Gate pretty much undisturbed. And if Fnatic Rising can also stack on top of that the Cannon Barrage, of course Lee Sin maybe gets down there as well. Venzer's not really going to be able to play the game, in all honesty. Movistar would have to respond really damn well to prevent this play from happening. So expect Dajor, once he hits level 6, maybe after another reset, given his mana pool right now, to actually try and attack that bottom side with Destiny Gate.
Well, Maxlore walking over a Vision Ward, so knows that he is very much spotted out, but that shall not deter Movistar Riders. They're going to push themselves down. Teleport coming in early as well.
Never mind.
Oh, never mind. Yeah, baited me so hard, Jamada. But we are going to see the rotate coming out here from the Lee Sin. There is a Destiny Gate available. Now they're going to go for it and repeat round 2. Let's fight, but it's all gone a little bit too hayward, and it's not really working out that great. 2 for 1 trade, and now Venzer with no flash goes down. It's a 3 for 1. Oh, it's a disaster.
Absolute disaster for Movistar. I said we would see maybe a response from Fnatic Rising in a proactive manner. I called it out in the wrong order. It's Movistar that actually looked for the play, and now Pride trying to get aggressive here onto Marky. Not gonna quite win out on the barrel war there, but honestly, it's so hard to make these dives happen if you've got to deal with a cannon barrage and you've got to deal with Destiny Gate always coming in. And not only that, Kalista can't really participate too heavily in these dives. If she's in this massive slow field, it slows her ability to actually get damage and rend stacks into these champions. And you can see again, the focus is on Bean, but it just takes so long for Bean to actually go down. Maxlore stuck underneath the tower. And of course, Jewel always likely to be the one member from Movistar that will die in these dives anyway. But it's Venzer also that goes down on the backside of it because had to blow flash on the initial dive originally, not able to make it out of that one alive either.
And again, you're doubling down on this bot side, but they talked about it on the analyst desk. We talked about it before coming into game one. Movistar riders are known for being bot lane priorities. We know they're going to go for this. And with an aggressive bot lane like a Sett Kalista, it's almost a foregone conclusion that they know they're going to have to go towards this bot side and play through it. So great reactions for Fnatic Rising. Movistar rider, you need to clean up the execution just a little bit. We know they can do it. They just need to make sure they're not just giving over free gold and free experience.
Yeah, I just feel like the issue is anytime these globals are up and Movistar want to go for this dive play, it's just going to be nearly impossible. I would actually like to see a bit of a swap up here. I would probably say at this point, you've gone for the dive twice. The first one was, a bit of a neutral. The second one, an outright loss. Try and focus on Pride now, because this is a side of the map where, realistically, Gangplank can get bullied by a Cho'Gath. And if you're talking about sending LeBlanc and Viego up there, he's not getting out of those dives, flash or not. And even if Dajor teleports up there too, it just doesn't necessarily salvage too many plays. Yes, it would suck to not put more resources into the Kalista, but I think at this point, you're just going to get more yield out of bullying that Gangplank.
Well, it looks like the Gangplank isn't going to be the one getting bullied. It's going to be Marky, the Cho'Gath, in a lot of trouble. They can keep him slowed forever. He has flash, but just to the left. And that is going to stop MAXI from getting anything. He lands that Sonic Wave. He's dead, man.
Yeah, absolutely dead. Marky able to walk out of that one. Only losing his flash. And of course, with the sustain of Cho'Gath passive, will heal up as that wave comes back into him. MAXI going to start up the Herald instead, but Maxlore, from the bottom side of the map, just going to beeline it all the way up to the top side. Not willing to give up the objective. They could have just, very easily taken the Mountain Dragon instead in a trade, but not willing to give over the potential plates, as XKenzuke actually saw that. Dajor, chains connect, that's a lot more damage.
It would have been a lot more, but we do now have both supports here, so it's Junglers. Oh, nicely done by Jewel, but they will get themselves knocked up here, so it's a good reactionary play as we see both supports getting themselves their money's worth in this particular trade. XKenzuke is going to pop over the wall, get himself back out. We now have Venzer joining in the fight, so now it's a 5v4. Fnatic Rising will not look to try and engage this one. They are going to reset, get themselves into their lane priorities, and back themselves away.
Yeah, and it's a mirror of game one in a way, right? Fnatic Rising try and start up this Rift Herald, and Movistar immediately just say, what the hell are you doing? This is our objective always. Get the mid lane shoved. Eventually Venzer shows up, I imagine, after getting bottom side priority, and of course Jewel was the first one to move ahead of Rhuckz. So Fnatic Rising lose out on that objective, trying to maybe repunish. Marky doesn't have flash, but look in the sidelines because Maxlore's here and he's the one that's looking for Pride.
And they don't know that MAXI's here, though. I think they have a little bit of an inkling. Actually, you can see there, they noticed Dajor was using the Destiny. They're going to go in straight away. Gold card, MAXI with the execution. Nicely done there by Fnatic Rising. Movistar Riders just a little bit too slow on the play.
Yeah, not just slow, I think maybe hesitant as well. Much like game one as well. We saw Movistar try and make plays onto Pride in the early stages, and they just, a few kind of just backsteps. Like, no, maybe we can't make this play. Maybe we can. Instead, they back away this time, and Destiny Gate popped as bottom side. There's a Hex Flash from Jewel, and I think they're just going to commit for this Bean. Got both summoners, Rhuckz almost there.
I mean, there's a chain of corruption coming down. Fate's called flash and heal. Has to be committed. Venzer loses both his summoners because Duel got a little bit too antsy.
Yeah. Nothing else to add to that. They felt like they could maybe look onto Bean, but teleport immediately from Dajor. In the top side at first of the Destiny Gate, then the teleport comes down as well. Really affecting both these side lanes positively for Fnatic Rising, and at just over the 10-minute mark, leaves them about 1,500 gold ahead at the moment, though some of that gold can be clawed back from Movistar with this Rift Herald, which got a little bit over 2 minutes left to use. I think considering all of the focus on the bottom side, they're likely to put it in this bottom lane for Venzer, but I wouldn't mind seeing it go in the mid lane. I think Movistar don't necessarily have the best amount of siege, being able to break open that mid-tier 1 to open up the map, allow faster rotations for yourself. Probably yield a little more benefit than trying to just take down this bottom tier 1, trying to funnel in some of that gold to Venzer.
Well, we are going to see everyone from Movistar Riders around this Dragon Pit, or bot side of the map. Bop, I suppose it could be if it was a nice dance, a good song maybe, which we might have later. Don't know. See what happens. But again, this is just really smart rotationary play coming out here from Movistar Riders. They're kind of saying, look, we had the push in mid, we had the push in top. We know there's no way that you can contest this, so let's just roam in, see if we can find something. And if we can't, no harm, no foul. So they get themselves the Cho'Gath back up the top. He's not going to lose much off to that tower. They may lose a plate, maybe, but that's about it. So Fnatic Rising just playing a little bit reactionary right now, not really ready for what Movistar Riders are going to be throwing at them. But again, we just want to bring this back towards the pick priority as such. We see the LeBlanc not banned picked up. We see the Twisted Fate picked in response, and Dajor has had a fantastic impact on this map, 2-0 and 3, really putting himself and making this pick really worth it for the side of Fnatic Rising. So for Movistar Riders, they need a way of containing this global presence that they have now on the side of Fnatic Rising.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think in part the window's starting to close on that, right? Because Dior's already made the impact on that side lane. He's already made the impact globally. You pick the LeBlanc, you want to try and play towards it in most cases. Obviously, in this case, they tried to shift that pressure down to the bottom side, but the execution wasn't there. And Venzer,
he's dead. He's buried. There's nothing he can do. He's gonna go fall down, and they're gonna be an easy as you liked for that gank. No summoners from the last one we talked about where DuaLL went a little bit too far forward, and that is just a very easy pick-off.
Yep, very easy pick-off. Nothing that Venzer can really do about that. Destiny Gate pulled. Rhuckz comes in from the back, and so does MAXI. See if Movistar can try and respond somewhere, but quite frankly, answers kind of slim. But they will find this mid lane tier 1. So this is what he's talking about. Getting that mid tier 1 down means the map can be a little more open for Movistar to make these rotations to the side lanes if they can catch these waves up quite high. Might even get a second charge out of it. Enough to see. It doesn't look like it's
minions.
Yeah.
You got minions able to get the eye off of it, so no second charge coming in there. So it is just going to be a trade of mid lane tier 1 for a kill and a couple of plates on the bot side. But 1,000 gold lead here for Fnatic Rising, as we did see Pride hovering with his Cannon Barrage, maybe thinking he could take on a 1v1 against Marky, but Marky very tanky, even if he only has the bomby Cinder. And now Venzer 1-2-1 on this Kalista. Hasn't had the best of times right now, and going up against a Dustbladed Drakar on the Varus, going to find it very difficult to try and sustain in this lane. Yeah,
and again, just to sort of reiterate this point, Venzer on the Kalista is probably going to struggle in so much of this composition, right? Get outranged by Beam via the piercing arrows. The gold cards are going to be able to lock you down. You've got no cleanse to deal with that. And the cannon barrage and all of the barrels is just going to zone you out. It's going to stop you from doing your job so frequently. Not being accelerated in a game like this is really, really going to hurt Movistar Riders as a whole. Have to see how he pilots it, because it's certainly a composition where if I was a Kalista player, I wouldn't want to be playing into this if I wasn't ridiculously ahead.
And this is what we talked about. This is what we said for Fnatic Rising. It's exactly what they needed to do. Get ahead. Keep the side of Movistar Riders at arm's length, so you can put down this poke. You can get these health bars nice and peppered down before you even start looking for a fight around an objective.
Exactly, and on top of that, Pride, juxtaposed to last game, hasn't actually been put significantly far behind. He's already got that Divine Sunder. He's working towards a second item, which the Quarterfinals hammer, my guess would be a Ravenous Hydra, though that can build into quite a few Gangplank second items, so I will hold reservations until I see it. But either way, going to be able to deal with Marky on the side lane for a very long time with that Divine Sunderer. And when it comes to those team fights, we know what Gangplank can do. And there's no cannon this time in the game for Movistar to shut down, slow approaches or find flanks to break open a slow composition from Fnatic Rising. It's Movistar with very limited engage, and it's all about the re-engage. And if Fnatic Rising can just play range.
Oh, or they can play pick on top of them. So Movistar Riders finding a very alone AD carry, takes him out. No harm, no foul for them. We will see the Cannon Barrage used to stop Venzer from pushing in this bot tier 2, but our top lane tier 2 is being pushed in as I say that. And now you gotta see Movistar Riders. What are they gonna try and do? It looks like they're honestly just gonna lose a lot of it. A lot of the health bar coming off of this, and Rhuckz, need to be careful, buddy. You're gonna get caught up by the ethereal trains, but it's just not really going to be catching out just yet. The Rift Herald has been started as Fnatic Rising not really in position to fight this, but a flank of Days coming out from Pride. Maybe he goes for this. There's going to be the Destiny Gate 2-man knock up into the kick. They found Duel, so there's no more engage. They're trying to get onto xKenzuke as they're trying to see if they can lock down any more members. It's going to be a trade of support, but the top laner does fall. There is no Venzer. This was just fantastic from Fnatic Rising, recognizing they can get a native 4v4, and they come out with a double for Dajor.
Yeah, honestly, wonderful fight coming out from Pride. I was going to say, honestly, again, Movistar not willing to give up a Rift Herald. This time bites them in the backside. They have Pride actually on a flank for Fnatic Rising. And on top of that, the frontal engage from them is absolutely wonderful. Locks up multiple members, and Fnatic Rising now pick up the Dragon on the backside of it. Get the replay to exactly see what happens. And again, Fnatic Rising start the Herald. They yield it as Movistar move their members up, but not willing to just give it up for free this time. Destiny getting to the backside, and Rhuckz with this wonderful engage kick. They burst Jewel before he can even pull out the Haymaker shield. And from then, 4v3, Maxlore, even though Rhuckz dies, doesn't manage to steal his form, and that's such a big deal because if he's able to siphon that form, he goes on target ball, gets more healing, gets CC, and that could buy xKenzuke the time to maybe slip over the wall, maybe assist with more damage. And crucially, of course, Maxlore would have had the reset in his back pocket to maybe take that fight further. But without it, run down underneath his tower, and xKenzuke has to run for the hills. So good fight from Fnatic Rising, good punish. Movistar only really walk away with the Herald. And it's going to be about how exactly they can actually use it to find major wins on the map. That top tier 1 quite low, but I think probably a foregone conclusion given the lane assignments here from Fnatic Rising. Maybe look to take a top tier 2 off the back of the Herald instead. But again, I mean, Fnatic Rising push on the bot side, and they might be able to respond to the top side, and Dajor has teleport too, so if they want to turn into a 5v5, they certainly can.
Oh, we are going to see now a little bit of an engage. There's going to be the facebreaker into the showstopper, but a good ultimate from the Varus stops every single person from Movistar Riders. Marky is here, trying to see if he can get something going for him, but the LeBlanc is dead, and it's all gone disastrously. It's 3 quick kills. There is no Baron available, but there is a very alone Venzer. He gets gold carded up. Dajor trying to just delay him just a little bit longer, forcing the flash out. If he gets hit by that sonic wave, he's dead, but Dajor does have himself a flash. He does have a rapid fire cannon. He flashes forward. He lands the CC, and an immortal shield bow will make you immortal no longer. It's a fantastic turnaround of events, and all that's all been happening. Pride's been playing PvE.
Yeah, Pride PvEing on the side lane might get punished in a slow rundown, but we'll see. Does he have another orange? Won't dodge out on that knock-up, and he will go down for a shutdown. 550 gold into Marky's back pocket. Didn't have the second diamond. It's actually going to be Sorola's grudge as he purchases whilst dead. Fnatic Rising punished the top side play. I mean, kind of said Dajor could very easily teleport to the play over there if Movistar try to actually over-aggress. And crucially, Marky on the backside of the fight, not really able to find the knock-up, not really able to disrupt anything. The engage from Jewel, not too terrible, but at the end of the day, Fnatic were then put in a position once Jewel died of either walking backwards into Marky and killing Marky, or quite simply ignoring him and moving forward onto the rest of the Movistar Riders members, because we had Dajor there with that gold card as well to lock down xKenzuke. It just made it very easy choices. There you go, Jewel. Not a terrible engage, but the follow-up just isn't there, quite frankly. And you see Fnatic Rising recognize Marky could potentially flank him, and they just say, okay, we'll walk away from him. Simple as that. Kill off the Viego, kill off the LeBlanc, then make another pick onto Venzer in the extended chase down. And now Movistar Riders find themselves 4,000 gold behind, trying to make proactive plays, but being consistently punished by Fnatic Rising.
Yeah, and actually, Maxlore are going to start off this dragon. You have the Ren stacks, and they know there's no teleport for Dajor. Yeah, I was going to say, the Lee Sin not really here just yet either. There will be a cannon barrage. I don't think Movistar Riders can go for this one. They're going to be peppered down. You can see the health bars going down. There's going to be the ultimates coming in. The quickness jumps down onto Venzer. Maxlore so low. He's forced to use his smite so much earlier than he probably wanted to. That's the Kalista, the LeBlanc.
MAXI!
And it's the dragon or the Baron stolen. That's just absolutely perfect. The desperation play not going to work out. Fnatic get the clean ace, they get the Baron, they get everything.
Everything for Fnatic Rising. They even managed to sneak Maxi into the back of the pit. LeBlanc tried to stop it from happening, tried to maybe burst him or Dajor down on the backside, but he just gets blown up, gold carded, locked down. And on the front side, it's Rhuckz to actually knock up Venzer, stop him from actually participating in this fight. Jewel only really sends away Pride, and it doesn't really do anything on the backside of the pit. Crucially, you can see Maxi undisturbed, and the feast doesn't come down. It's too much burst damage for a Cho'Gath to react to. Triple kill for the Gangplank somehow in all of that chaos. They pick up the Baron, and now fully in Fnatic's court, the ball is, how much can they get from this big purple worm buff?
That is huge, and while we were in that replay, we did see 3 outer towers going down, top, bot, and mid, all now done and dusted. It is an 11,000 or just underneath 1,000 gold lead here for the side of Fnatic Rising. They have a 16-stack Medjais onto this Twisted Fate, and the double globals are just working out wonderfully here now for Fnatic Rising. Movistar Riders, I like the ideas, but I feel like you're just too far behind. There's just nothing you can do.
Yeah, I think the Baron play, realistically, a bit of a desperation one, if I have to be totally honest. Recognizing maybe it might be a little bit too far gone. And again, it's just so difficult for champions like the Kalista, like the LeBlanc, to function into all of this poke, all of this sort of, you know, zonal control. And now, I mean, how do you even survive a siege? Yeah.
Oh my god. Good
yeah,
Lord.
All right, well, back to the fountain.
Yeah, you can't deal with that right now. Pride has 3 items sitting on the Serpent's Fangs, along with the Sorelja's Grudge and the Divine Sunderer, so he's just chunking through Hellfires. Now, Movistar Riders, they recognize they have to go for some kind of a hero play, but their engage has been stopped out of nowhere. There's the Cannon Barrage just trying to stop everyone from jumping onto MAXI. They're going to try and see if they can get Maxlore on the backside of this, but you need to go back to your team, Maxlore. You're just separated from this fight. Double kill coming in from MAXI as he tries to prove to the rest of the Amazonian Masters that he is the better Max. Now with the Baron buff, now with this inhibitor falling, they're going to look to try and end this game in 23 minutes. Fnatic Rising just slam Movistar Riders. And Jamada, we got ourselves a 1-all series in this best of 5.
I am so happy to see this turn into a series because, quite frankly, I think Fnatic Rising have been looking very strong throughout the duration of this tournament. And obviously Movistar, they kind of cruise through their group. So seeing it be evened up now to 1-1, I'm happy to see it. And I think for Movistar, they had a very clear idea of how they wanted to play this game out, all right? They wanted to try and get those consistent dives going. The first one only really yielded a neutral result, and the second one a complete disaster. And at that point, they didn't really try and transition it, maybe perhaps towards the top side and try and bully out the Gangplank. They just kept on sending members back down towards the bottom side, and they couldn't really find an in on the rest of the map. And eventually, it just felt like this Fnatic Rising composition outscaled them in the context of how they wanted to interact with one another.
Yeah, it was exactly what we said. Fnatic Rising got themselves a lead. They never let it go. And then Movistar Riders were just struggling to get back into the game. But that's enough talking from us. We're going to send it to a quick break. And when we return, the very qualified analyst will be telling us how Fnatic Rising won.
He's going to flash in, and he steals the bomb! How did that connect by Edgeway?
Fini! As EU Masters Champions!
Rising even up the score and making it a 1-1 as we return to the Amazon European Masters, our first knockout of the week. Looking at this Fnatic Rising, it was a pretty darn strong one.
I mean, do you want it? Shall I take it?
Yeah, I'm happy to take
All
it.
right.
I feel like going into that, the draft was a big factor, right? We saw Kalista, we saw LeBlanc. These champions, typically you want to get momentum with them, get ahead. But also, when you look at the other side, you're playing into Twisted Fate and Varus. That is a nightmare for a Kalista. I honestly feel like you can't get much worse in terms of shutting down the pick. And it really put the onus on Movistar Riders to get things going early.
I just feel like there's an unwritten rule that says you do not pick Kalista into not just one global, but two. And there was a point, I think it was last year maybe, where teams would pick up Kalista in the bot lane because Twisted Fate specifically was banned out. Because Twisted Fate is such a problem. You technically want to play very aggressive in the early game. You want to pull out a lot of dives when you have the Kalista, get her super far ahead and accelerated into the game, and then snowball that pressure into the top lane tower, and then you snowball entirely the game. And having not one, but two globals to shut that down, I felt like was so strong coming out from Fnatic Rising. I think their draft was like impeccably strong.
It also felt that Movistar Riders were just looking too much in that bot lane, trying to shut down the Varus, it felt like. And it's something I've seen before somewhere.
Yeah. G2, when they started picking up Kalista, this is exactly what they would do. They would leave the Varus open, and then they would try to repeatedly dive it over and over and over again to try and get that Kalista ahead. Now, of course, here, in this particular position, it might have seemed like a desperation move, but especially when the cooldowns are down on the globals, this is where you have to try and get your chance to get that Kalista ahead, or you know you're running on the clock.
That's the thing, yeah. I don't even, it was the right play for Movistar. They had to do this. They had to find the momentum, because if you just sit back and farm up, you're going to go into a mid game where the enemy team just wins every single team fight. You would be so reliant on picks to make things work, or really good engages. And I think just coming out of draft, they put so much emphasis on needing that early strength. I don't think it set them up for success.
I do want to look over the game, though, because it starts with that dive. And I think it's around 4 minutes where it happens, where they try to shut down the Varus, but he stays alive. They don't get him down, and they invest a lot of resources to try something they do not gain at all.
I think there was one particular dive at the very beginning where they trade 1-for-1, the Kalista and the Varus. And typically you'd be really happy being the Kalista right there, because then you can pretty much rinse and repeat it. I think this was...
This is the play. This is 4 minutes in, and this is where they try to dive the Varus, but Bean goes almost untouched.
Yeah, absolutely. They try to bring down the LeBlanc, but you see that the Twisted Fate knows exactly where everyone is. And again, they're just using that vision. This is why the Twisted Fate is so broken, because even if you're trying to pull up a flank, which is what LeBlanc typically wants to do, we've seen it on the G2 versus Mad Lions as well, where Humana was shutting down Caps over and over again. That LeBlanc is so vulnerable when you can see her position and sort of stun her in place and keep her out of the fight.
And I think as well, the Twisted Fate is paired so well with AD carries who have good single target damage, like Varus, like Ezreal. We see RNG in the LPL would really heavily lean towards compositions like this. And I think the way these teams play with that mid-priority to side lane lean, it's very effective. And the mid-game, it spikes extremely hard. And you can see, look at the goal difference over time. Fnatic didn't have a substantial lead in the early game, but they mitigated the pressure from Movistar. And as soon as it started to get into that point where they had the momentum, that comp came online, there was nothing that Movistar could do. And you can see the gold spikes massively. It was just very hard for them to functionally find the team fight. And I mean, look at the Kalista's damage, 4.1k, less than the Sett, less than the Viego. This was just a doomed scenario to pick the champion in.
I mean, this is something they have to change on the Movistar side. I mean, this is something you can do. The globals very well utilized with Fnatic Rising once again, as already previously mentioned.
Point and click stun. That's it. It's that simple. The more point and clicks you see you have against the Kalista, the easier it is.
Not only that, it's also about the globals, and Troubles, who's standing at the telestrator, is going to show us that dive at minute 6, where they use the globals perfectly on the side of Fnatic Rising.
All right, guys. Thank you very much, Koolein. And yes, it is very utterly illegal to pick Kalista into not just one, but two globals. And I'm going to showcase exactly why. So right here, I'm going to bring up the minimap and show you that this is a perfectly made play from the side of Movistar Riders, because the Lee Sin is on the top side of the map, and you see the Viego is going towards the bot side of the map. The LeBlanc is going to push in to the Twisted Fate, so she's able to roam freely. Now, as I keep on playing the clip, Maxlore will go through the jungle, he will go through a ward, so he knows that he has been seen. But it doesn't matter because again, you'll see, I'm gonna stop it right there and show you that they read the play instantly. The second they see the Viego through the ward, you will see that both the Twisted Fate is gonna push and abandon lane and try to go towards the bot side of the map, and the Lee Sin is gonna try to do the exact same thing. He backed instantly, he's literally beelining towards the bot side of the map. This is a good play for Movistar Riders because again, they're trying to get that Kalista ahead, they're trying to pull up the dive, and DuaLL plays this so well. He grabs the Rakan, he gets onto the Varus, but at the end of the day, the Gangplank ultimate starts raining in, the Twisted Fate is there to get back to his teammates, and Lee Sin is also beelining towards the bot side of the map. Cho'Gath cannot join because she just used teleport to get back to lane because she was losing, and you see how suddenly, from 3 members, you have 5 members of Fnatic Rising joining that bot side of the map. And this is why, again, it's just so illegal, man, to pick that Kalista into 2 globals. Twisted Fate can shut you down on its own, but yes, you have cleanse, you can get away, but how do you play around a Gangplank ultimate? It was just extremely hard, and just showed later on in the fights as well that the team composition that Fnatic Rising had was just that much better.
And the critical thing as well is Dajor and his role in this, right? Game 1, he had the Rise, that first pick wasn't too instrumental, and ultimately they weren't able to do too much on the back of it. But we saw this Twisted Fate. He was, again, just beelining straight from his lane to facilitate the side lane, stop the enemy dives, and then from there on just expanded it completely. It felt like the pick really did a number for him.
You wanted to compare Game 1 and Game 2 in Dajor because we see a constant curve on this guy. I mean, if you just look at how he came into the NLC in the playoffs, just gets dropped in there. He's been growing a lot as a player. Game 1, you said it, the Rise didn't really work for him, and you see the kills at 15, not really that impactful.
Yeah, it was actually takedowns at 15, so he had 1 kill, 1 assist at that point. Hadn't really done anything, died a couple of times, wasn't able to free himself from the lane, and it felt like the setup for the enemy team came in really effectively. Game 2, however, at 50 minutes, the TF was 2-0-4 already, and he continued that pressure throughout. He was playing that role with the stun card where he's consistently able to lock someone down, playing that wide map state really effectively. I think the pick, you know, we saw the priority on the Rise in Game 1, we saw it get banned out. The TF is looking a bit better, 100% win rate so far in this series.
I felt like the drafting that Fnatic did right here was really clever. They banned out both the Rise and the Kennen, and it was pretty obvious that they wanted to take the Twisted Fate away. And sure, Movistar Riders had the answer ready. They were like, cool, we're going to brawl with you with the LeBlanc and the Viego, no matter what you pick. But Lee Sin is really good into LeBlanc. Lee Sin can follow LeBlanc wherever she goes, so technically the 2v2 is in favor of Fnatic Rising. So not only did they manage to counter that very strong 2v2 that Movistar Riders have between their mid lane and their jungle, but they also drafted a much better team fighting composition for later on fights, and it just snowballed out of control.
Do you feel like Movistar brute forced too much on that bot side? I mean, they had to make the play, get the Varus behind, I would say, get that Kalista going. Is it purely draft, or did they just push too much on the bot lane?
I think it's mostly the draft force in that position, but what I will say is there's steps to this process, right? You attack mid, force Dajor's flash, put him in a pressure position. You had priority bot lane, so you can even move DuaLL up to do that. And when mid is struggling, there's no vision around, he can't just do what he did so easily. If you attack mid first, then it's a lot easier to move that pressure down to the bot lane and start to make these plays effectively. I think they didn't do the groundwork before they went for the play. They rushed into it, and that's how it backfired.
Do you think it's all eggs in the basket for Marky? Because it feels like they tried to do it via bot side now, and it really worked out for him.
I felt like had it been a different champion, possibly if they took the Varus away, if they played something like the Tristana, something that has a lot more survivability when it comes to Twisted Fate coming into your lane, I could have potentially seen that. I don't necessarily think that them swapping their playstyle is their downfall. I don't think necessarily playing through Marky is something that they only have to do, because we've seen Fnatic Rising swapping their playstyle as well. I felt like it was a good plan. It lacked in execution from the draft, and then later on, it was sort of their downfall playing again into the double global. Again, I feel like maybe a different ADC, maybe the Tristana down there could have made the difference.
Movistar Riders has opted for the red side. Are you a fan of that, Ox?
See, we see a lot of priority on the blue side because obviously you get that first powerful pick, but there's so many things on the cards because obviously we have so many power picks we're dealing with in the current meta, but also between these two teams, there's so many contested picks. I think they're fine giving over one prior pick to Fnatic to take 2 off their own, and then obviously leads them into having counter picks later as well.
Let's see if Movistar has learned as we head on over to a break, but when we come back, it's time for the 3rd game of this best of 5 series, so don't go anywhere.
champions.